This is the chart of the week, or as always, charts of the week, because we're actually looking here at the situation in Japan. And why do we do that? Because we have seen a strong spike in the yield, in the Japanese rates, you can call it, in the last many months, actually. You can say it all the way back here from 2019. We have seen how it's been going up, up, and up. And actually, over the last few months here, it's just been rising very, very strongly. Now it's becoming very clear to everybody that something is happening. Obviously, it's not a good thing when the interest rate just keeps going up, because everybody will then be punished by higher interest payments. So that is not a good situation for the economy, and especially if it's slowing down. There could be many reasons why the interest rates go up, and some of them will be more, we can call it cyclical, short-term, and more. Some others can be more of a secular, long-term reasons. I want to focus in on the last part here, because if you look to the Japanese central bank balance sheet, and especially ever since the 1997, 98 Asian crisis, we've seen how the balance sheet has just ballooned higher. So since then, which is some 29 years ago, we've seen how 28 actually, because it was late, I think it's 97, 98, 27, 28 years. We've seen how the Japanese balance sheet has just ballooned up 11 to 12 times. And for a long time, everybody was expecting that, this is not a problem. You can keep, adding to the balance sheet without a problem, and we will not see any inflation from that. And they were right, because if we look down to inflation, we can see how that was just going, sideways and up and down. And then we had the financial crisis, and then you had a blip here into 2014, and then it came down again, and so on. But at some point, we see inflation actually starting to rise. And there is a difference here. And the difference is that it seems like it's now plateauing at a higher level, which I also think it does. And you can actually also see, if you look to the long-term trend of this, that we are actually seeing a very long-term bottoming process here, which is actually something that could be quite severe. Inflation is going up. Now, why would we expect inflation to go up? Because when you're using monetary stimulus again and again and again, at some point it will show in inflation. This is what the Keynesian way of thinking is disregarding, because they think, well, you can stimulate the economy and the economy will start to strengthen, and then, all things will be fine. The problem is there's no free lunch, as we have seen everybody thinking for a long time, and it took a long time. You can see this is, such a long time until the bottom here in 2016, which really didn't feel like a bottom here in 19. So things can go on for a long, long time, and all of a sudden, it's like a ketchup bottle, it can become a problem. So I'm not saying that this is the whole problem, and this is just going to go up and up, but it is telling us that we potentially are starting to see a new inflationary system and the consequences of this. And this is really also what we need to think about when everybody's saying to me that the Fed can just print if we get a problem with the economy. Then we have to think about the Japanese situation, which we have here. Wealth cannot be printed. You can create an illusion of wealth for some time, and at some point you will have to pay the check. Somebody will need to pay the check. There's no free lunch. And I think this is what we're starting to see in Japan. And as it starts in Japan, it is going to come to the rest of the world at some point. I don't think that inflation will go up and up here in the rest of the world. And I think there will be a deflationary pressure, and more than that. But this is something we need to prepare for, because if we look to the long-term inflation and the development in that, the long-term structure on that for the rest of the world, and in the US especially, we see a similar situation. We're just a few years behind this Japanese situation. So this is what I want to talk about today. Yes, there is a shift in the environment, a shift in what I call the economic regime. The inflation is becoming an inflationary regime in Japan, and it's going to come to the rest of the world because there's no free lunch. That is all for today, and I'll be back next week.